On his 30th birthday, billionaire Cameron Holt paid a hotel waitress $500 for an hour of conversation. He didn't expect it to change his life or open his heart. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The bright lights of New York City sparkled against the night sky as Cameron Holt stared out the window of the upscale hotel bar. His reflection showed a man who should have been celebrating, handsome, successful, dressed in a tailored suit that cost more than most people made in a month. Today was his 30th birthday, but his phone hadn't buzzed once with well wishes. Not that he expected it to. Cameron swirled the ice in his empty glass. The bar was half empty, filled with business types like himself, all strangers. That's what happened when you spent 10 years climbing to the top. People became stepping stones, not friends. "Would you like another drink, sir?" a voice asked. Cameron looked up and saw a young black woman in the hotel's standard black and white uniform. Her name tag read Jasmine. She had warm brown eyes that looked tired but kind. "No," he said, then paused. Something about her steady gaze made him add, "Actually, yes. The Macallan 25. Neat." Jasmine nodded, coming right up. As she walked away, Cameron watched her. Unlike the other staff who practically bowed when they recognized him, she treated him like any other customer. It was refreshing. When she returned with his scotch, Cameron made a decision. "Excuse me, Jasmine," he said, reading her name tag again. "I have an unusual request." She raised an eyebrow, instantly wary. "Sir, I'll give you $500 to sit and talk with me for 1 hour. He held up his hand when her expression hardened. "Just talk, nothing more." "I'm not that kind of waitress," she said firmly. "I don't think you are," Cameron replied. It's my birthday and I don't want to drink alone." Jasmine studied him, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Why not call a friend?" Cameron's laugh was short and hollow. "I don't really have those." She glanced around the bar, then at her watch. "My break is in 20 minutes. $500 for 1 hour of conversation, nothing else?" Cameron nodded. "I'll need the money up front," she said, "and I have conditions. No flirting, no touching, and no lies." "Deal," Cameron said, pulling 5 crisp $100 bills from his wallet and placing them on the table. Jasmine looked at the money, then back at him. "I'll be back in 20 minutes. True to her word, Jasmine returned exactly 20 minutes later. She had removed her apron, but still wore her uniform. She slid into the seat across from Cameron, keeping the table between them. "So," she said, tucking the money into her pocket, "how does this work?" Cameron shrugged. "I've never done this before. I guess we just talk? About what?" "Anything. Tell me about yourself." Jasmine crossed her arms. "That's not very specific." "Fair enough," Cameron said. "What's your full name?" "Jasmine Bell. I'm Cameron Holt." "I know who you are, Mr. Holt. Your face was on the cover of Forbes last month." Cameron winced slightly. That article wasn't exactly flattering. "The Wolf of Wall Street for the digital age," Jasmine quoted. "I thought powerful men liked being compared to wolves. Not when the comparison focuses on how many companies you've torn apart." Cameron took a sip of his scotch. "But you're not here to talk about my business dealings." "What am I here to talk about then?" Cameron leaned back in his chair. "What's your favorite book?" The question seemed to surprise her. "My favorite book?" "Yes, everyone has one." Jasmine thought for a moment. "Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston." "I haven't read that one," Cameron admitted. "Really? A man with your education." "I studied business and economics, not literature. Why is it your favorite?" As Jasmine began to explain, her reserve melted slightly. Her hands moved as she spoke about the protagonist's journey to find her voice and independence. Cameron found himself genuinely interested, asking follow-up questions that led to a discussion about other books they had read. Before they knew it, 45 minutes had passed. "You're not what I expected," Jasmine said during a lull in the conversation. "What did you expect? Someone more arrogant?" "The articles about you make you sound ruthless." Cameron's face hardened slightly. "I am ruthless in business. You have to be." "Do you?" "My mother always said you can succeed without stepping on others." "Your mother sounds wise," Cameron said. "Is she here in New York?" A shadow crossed Jasmine's face. "She's at Memorial Sloan Kettering. Cancer. That's why I'm working double shifts at this place." "I'm sorry to hear that." "Don't be sorry, she's fighting hard. The treatments are expensive, but they're working." Cameron nodded, not knowing what to say. He rarely encountered genuine problems that money couldn't solve, or at least hide. "Our hour is almost up," Jasmine noted, glancing at her watch. Cameron felt a pang of disappointment. "Would you consider another hour?" "Same rate," Jasmine hesitated. I should get back to work. After your shift ends? The bar closes at 2 a.m. I'll be tired. I understand, Cameron said, trying to hide his disappointment. Jasmine looked at him for a long moment. 1 more hour now, she finally said. Then I need to get back to work. Cameron immediately pulled out 5 more $100 bills. Thank you. Jasmine took the money but said, You know, most people don't have to pay someone to talk to them on their birthday. I'm not most people. Clearly, she said. So why are you alone tonight? No family, no girlfriend or boyfriend. No to all of the above, Cameron said. My parents died when I was in college. Car accident. My sister and I, we don't speak anymore. Why not? Cameron looked down at his glass. I made some choices she didn't agree with, business choices. Were they bad choices? They were profitable. That's not what I asked. Cameron met her gaze. Yes, they were bad choices. I hurt people. Not directly, but people lost jobs when I broke up companies. And your sister called you out on it? She did more than that. She publicly denounced me in the press, said I'd become everything our parents warned us against. Was she right? Cameron didn't answer immediately. Maybe, probably, but by then I was in too deep. The money, the power, it's addictive. Is it worth it? Being alone on your birthday? The question hit harder than Cameron expected. I don't know anymore. Their second hour passed quickly as the conversation deepened. Jasmine told him about her dream of opening a small bookstore cafe. Cameron shared stories from his college days before he'd become the businessman everyone feared. When Jasmine's manager walked by with a pointed look, she sighed. I really have to go now. 1 more hour after your shift, Cameron said. Double the rate. Mr. Holt. Cameron, please. Cameron, why are you doing this? Why me? He considered her question carefully. Because you look me in the eye when you speak. Because you're not impressed by who I am. Because talking to you is the first real conversation I've had in years. Jasmine stood up. I'll think about it. Maybe. She returned to work, and Cameron watched her move efficiently around the bar, taking orders, delivering drinks, smiling at customers. He nursed his scotch, not wanting to leave. At 1:30 a.m., as the bartender called last orders, Jasmine approached his table again. My shift ends in 30 minutes, she said. If you're serious about that third hour, there's a 24-hour diner 3 blocks from here. They make decent coffee. Cameron felt a smile spread across his face. I'll be there. The diner was nearly empty at 2:15 a.m. Cameron felt oddly out of place in his expensive suit, sitting in a vinyl booth under fluorescent lighting. But when Jasmine walked in, having changed into jeans and a simple blouse, he forgot about his surroundings. You came, he said as she slid into the booth. I said I would. She glanced at the menu. Their pancakes are good. Is this where the third hour starts? Cameron asked, reaching for his wallet. Jasmine shook her head. I'm off the clock. This isn't part of our arrangement. Then why did you come? She shrugged. Curiosity, maybe. Or maybe I just wanted pancakes. They ordered. Pancakes for her, coffee for him, and fell back into conversation. Jasmine told him about growing up in Baltimore, about her mother's strength as a single parent, about the scholarship that brought her to NYU and the cancer diagnosis that kept her in the city after graduation. What about you? She asked. What was life like before Forbes magazines and billion-dollar deals? Cameron rarely spoke about his past, but with Jasmine the words came easily. He told her about growing up in Connecticut, about sailing with his father, about his mother's passion for teaching underprivileged kids. They sound like good people, Jasmine said. They'd be proud of your success. The success, maybe, not how I achieved it. It's never too late to change course, you know. Cameron looked at her. Is that what you think I should do? Change? It doesn't matter what I think, but you're the one who said you don't know how to be close to anyone. Maybe ask yourself why. Their food came, and they continued talking. The diner slowly emptied until they were the only customers left. The waitress refilled their coffee cups without asking, clearly used to late-night conversations. It's almost 4 a.m., Jasmine said, checking her phone. I should go home. I have another shift tomorrow. Let me drive you, Cameron offered. I have my car. Then I'll walk you to it. Outside, the city was as quiet as it ever got. A few taxis drove by, and the occasional pedestrian hurried past. They walked to the employee parking lot behind the hotel, in comfortable silence. This is me, Jasmine said, stopping beside a used Honda Civic. Thank you for tonight, Cameron said, for all 3 hours. You paid for 2 of them, she reminded him. The third was the best one. Jasmine smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. Happy birthday, Cameron. I hope next year you don't have to pay someone to care." The words weren't unkind, but they carried a truth that stung. Before Cameron could respond, Jasmine got into her car and drove away, leaving him standing alone in the parking lot. For the next week, Cameron found himself distracted during meetings. His assistant noticed his unusual preoccupation, but knew better than to comment. At night, Cameron would stare out the window of his penthouse apartment, replaying his conversations with Jasmine. He thought about calling the hotel to ask for her, but that seemed inappropriate. He considered returning to the bar, but what would he say? Their arrangement had been clear, a business transaction, nothing more, yet he couldn't stop thinking about her question. Is it worth it, being alone on your birthday? The answer was increasingly clear. No, it wasn't. Jasmine had just finished her Thursday afternoon shift when she went to the employee locker room to change. As she opened her locker, a folded piece of paper fell to the floor. She picked it up, unfolded it, and read, "You didn't take the money for the last hour. I owe you dinner? No strings, just real. C." Below was a phone number. Jasmine stared at the note, her heart beating faster. She pulled out her phone, saved the number, then debated what to do next. Was this a good idea? She barely knew Cameron Holt, and what she did know about him wasn't exactly reassuring. The ruthless businessman who admitted to hurting people for profit. Yet she had also seen another side of him, the man who listened intently to her talk about books, who spoke about his parents with genuine love, who seemed lost despite all his success. As she stood in the back hallway, heart pounding, she typed out a message, then deleted it. Typed again, deleted again. Finally, she settled on, "I don't recall setting a price for the third hour." Her finger hovered over the send button. Before she could decide, her phone buzzed with an incoming message from the number on the note. "Still your hour, if you want it." Jasmine took a deep breath and hit reply. Jasmine stared at her phone, reading Cameron's message again. "Still your hour, if you want it." After a moment's hesitation, she typed, "When and where?" The response came immediately. "Tomorrow night I know a quiet place in the village, 7 p.m. Jasmine thought about her schedule. She wasn't working tomorrow evening, and her mother's nurse would be there until 9 p.m. "Okay, text me the address." As she drove to the hospital to visit her mother, Jasmine questioned her decision. What was she doing agreeing to meet Cameron Holt again? Their 3 hours of conversation had been surprisingly nice, but he was from a different world. Men like him didn't genuinely interest themselves in women like her, not beyond a temporary fascination. At Memorial Sloan Kettering, Jasmine found her mother sitting up in bed, flipping through a magazine. Margaret Bell looked up with a smile that brightened her tired face. "There's my girl," Margaret said, holding out her arms for a hug. Jasmine embraced her mother carefully, mindful of the IV line. "How are you feeling today, Mom?" "Better than yesterday. Dr. Phillips says my numbers are improving." Jasmine sat in the chair beside the bed. "That's great news. Now, tell me what's on your mind," Margaret said, studying her daughter's face. "You've got that look." "What look?" "The one that says you're overthinking something." Jasmine sighed. Her mother could always read her. "I met someone." Margaret's eyebrows rose. "A man?" "It's not what you think. He was a customer at the hotel. We talked, that's all." "Must have been some conversation to put that look on your face." Jasmine hesitated, then told her mother about Cameron, leaving out the part about him paying her to talk. "He's asked me to dinner tomorrow." "And you're going?" "I said yes, but now I'm not sure. He's very wealthy, Mom. The kind of rich that's in another universe." Margaret took her daughter's hand. "Money doesn't make the man, Jasmine, you know that. Your father had nothing but charm and empty promises. Cameron's different. He's—" Jasmine searched for the right word. "Lonely. Really lonely. Aren't we all, sometimes?" Margaret squeezed her hand. "Go to dinner, see what happens. Just remember who you are. A waitress with student loans and a mother in the hospital. A smart, beautiful woman who deserves respect," Margaret corrected firmly. "Money doesn't give anyone the right to look down on you." Jasmine nodded, drawing strength from her mother's words, as she always had. The next evening, Jasmine stood outside a small Italian restaurant in Greenwich Village. The place looked authentic and cozy, not the flashy upscale restaurant she had expected. She wore a simple black dress she'd bought on sale last year, hoping it struck the right balance between casual and nice. Cameron was already waiting outside. He wore dark jeans and a light blue button-down shirt, more casual than the suit she'd seen him in, but still obviously expensive. When he saw her, his face lit up with a genuine smile. "You came," he said, echoing his words from the diner. "I said I would." she replied with a small smile. Inside, the restaurant was warm and intimate. The hostess led them to a corner table where they could talk privately. The menu had no prices listed, which made Jasmine instantly uncomfortable. "The owner is an old family friend," Cameron explained after they ordered. "My parents used to bring us here when we visited the city. It's one of the few places in New York that hasn't changed in 30 years. "It's nice," Jasmine said, looking around at the family photos on the walls and the checkered tablecloths. "Different from what I expected." "What did you expect? A Michelin-starred restaurant with waiters who hover over your shoulder?" "Something like that." Cameron's expression grew serious. "I wanted you to be comfortable, and I wanted to show you that I do know how to be a normal person sometimes." "Is that what this is? You being normal?" "I'm trying," he admitted. "It's been a while." Their conversation flowed more easily than Jasmine had anticipated. Cameron asked about her mother's treatment, showing genuine concern. Jasmine found herself explaining the complicated medical procedures, the promising new therapy, and the crushing medical bills. "The insurance covers some of it," she explained, "but there are so many extra costs. The special diet, the transportation, the at-home care when I'm working. Is that why you took my offer that night? For the money?" Jasmine met his gaze directly. "Yes. $500 is almost a week's worth of groceries and transportation." Cameron nodded, not looking offended. "I respect your honesty. You said no lies, remember? That was one of my conditions." "I remember everything about that night." Their food arrived, pasta for her, risotto for him, momentarily pausing their conversation. As they ate, Cameron asked about her bookstore dream. "I've been saving for years," Jasmine said, "but now with Mom's bills, that dream is on hold. What would your ideal store look like?" Jasmine's eyes brightened as she described it. The corner location she'd found in Harlem, the reading nooks she wanted to create, the community events she hoped to host, the coffee counter that would help sustain the business. "You've really thought this through," Cameron said, impressed. "I've had the business plan ready for 2 years. Before Mom got sick, I was just 6 months away from having enough for the down payment." "Would you show it to me sometime, the business plan?" Jasmine tilted her head. "Why?" "Because I'm interested, and because I might be able to help." Her expression immediately cooled. "I don't need charity, Cameron." "That's not what I meant," he said quickly. "I meant advice, connections, not money." "Right," she said, clearly not believing him. Cameron leaned forward. "Jasmine, I made my first million by recognizing good business plans. If yours is as solid as it sounds, there are legitimate ways I could help that have nothing to do with charity." Before she could respond, a man approached their table. He was in his 60s, with salt and pepper hair and a jovial smile. "Cameron Holt, I thought it was you," the man said, clapping Cameron on the shoulder. "Antonio said you were here, but I had to see for myself. It's been years." Cameron stood and shook the man's hand. "Mr. Rossi, good to see you. This is Jasmine Bell." "Jasmine, this is Marco Rossi. He owns this place." "A pleasure," Marco said, taking Jasmine's hand. "Any friend of the Holts is welcome here. Your parents were wonderful people, Cameron. I still miss them coming in." "So do I," Cameron said quietly. Marco looked between them with twinkling eyes. "I'll leave you two to enjoy your dinner. Dessert is on the house tonight." After he left, Jasmine asked, "Did you come here often as a kid?" "Every summer. My sister and I would fight over who got to order the tiramisu first." A shadow crossed his face at the mention of his sister. "You miss her," Jasmine observed. "Sometimes. We were close once." "What's her name?" "Rebecca. She's 2 years younger than me. She's a public defender now in Boston. Quite different from your line of work." "Yes," Cameron agreed. "She always did have more of our mother's social conscience." "And what did you get from your mother?" Cameron thought for a moment. "Her stubbornness, unfortunately." "That doesn't sound like a bad thing." "It is when you're too stubborn to admit you're wrong," he said softly, "like I was with Rebecca." After dinner, they walked through the village. The early summer evening was warm, and the streets were filled with people enjoying the weather. Cameron asked if she wanted to get ice cream, and they found a small shop with homemade flavors. "So," Cameron said as they sat on a bench with their cones, "are you going to show me that business plan?" Jasmine licked her strawberry ice cream, considering. "Maybe, if you promise not to try to take over or fix it." "I promise to just offer feedback. I'll think about it." They fell silent for a moment, watching people pass by. "Can I ask you something?" Jasmine said finally. "Anything." "Why me? Why did you ask me to sit with you that night? And why did you leave that note asking to see me again?" Cameron looked at his ice cream, then at her. "Because when I'm with you, I remember who I wanted to be before I became this." He gestured vaguely at himself. You make me feel like maybe it's not too late to change. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone you barely know. You're right. I'm sorry. He looked genuinely contrite. The truth is, I just enjoy talking to you. No pressure, no expectations. Jasmine checked her watch. I should go, the nurse leaves at 9. Let me drive you, Cameron offered. This time, Jasmine accepted. His car was parked nearby, a sleek black BMW that probably cost more than her entire college education. As they drove to the hospital, Cameron asked careful questions about her mother's condition. The doctors are optimistic, Jasmine said, but the bills keep coming. Every new treatment, every specialist. Have you considered applying for assistance programs? We've applied for everything available. It helps, but it's not enough. Cameron parked near the hospital entrance. I'd like to meet her sometime if that's okay. The request surprised Jasmine. My mother? Why? She raised you. She must be an amazing woman. Jasmine smiled softly. She is. Maybe someday. Cameron walked her to the entrance. Before she went in, he said, I had a good time tonight, Jasmine. Would you consider seeing me again? Is this still about the unpaid hour? No, this is about me wanting to know you better. Jasmine looked at him thoughtfully. I work tomorrow night, but I'm free Sunday afternoon. Sunday it is. I'll text you. He didn't try to kiss her, just smiled and said goodnight. Jasmine watched him walk back to his car, wondering what she was getting herself into. Inside, she found her mother awake and alert, watching a game show on the small TV. How was your date? Margaret asked, muting the television. It wasn't a date, Mum. What was it then? Jasmine sat on the edge of the bed. I don't know, but he wants to see me again on Sunday. And do you want to see him? I think I do, Jasmine admitted. He's different when it's just the two of us talking. Less like the ruthless businessman and more like a real person. Margaret patted her hand. Just be careful, baby. Men with money and power are used to getting what they want. Cameron's not like that, Jasmine said, then caught herself. How could she be so sure after just a few conversations? At least I don't think he is. Across town, Cameron sat in his penthouse, a glass of scotch untouched beside him. He'd had dinner with countless women over the years, models, socialites, businesswomen who spoke his language of mergers and acquisitions, but none of those dinners had felt like tonight. Jasmine challenged him. She didn't pretend to be impressed by his wealth or laugh at his jokes to please him. She asked difficult questions and expected real answers. She made him think about things he'd been avoiding for years. His phone buzzed with a text from his assistant. Mr. Davis from Apex Tech called again about the takeover. Says it's urgent. Cameron stared at the message. 2 weeks ago, the hostile takeover of Apex Technologies had been his top priority. He'd been planning to dismantle the company and sell off its profitable divisions, regardless of the hundreds of employees who would lose their jobs. It was the kind of deal that had made him infamous in the business world. Now, looking at the message, he felt a twinge of something unfamiliar. Was it doubt? Guilt? He thought of Jasmine's face when she'd talked about her bookstore dream. The passion, the care, the determination to create something meaningful. What dreams did the people at Apex have? What would happen to them if he went through with his plan? Cameron put down his phone without replying and walked to the window. The city spread out below him, millions of lives interconnected in ways he'd never bothered to consider before. He picked up his phone again and opened his contacts. He scrolled past business associates and acquaintances until he found the name he was looking for. His finger hovered over it for a long moment before he hit call. After several rings, a surprised voice answered. Cameron? Hello, Rebecca, he said to his sister. I know it's been a while. I was hoping we could talk. Sunday afternoon found Jasmine and Cameron walking through Central Park. The weather was perfect. Sunny, but not too hot. Families picnicked on the grass, children played frisbee, and street musicians provided a soundtrack to their stroll. I called my sister, Cameron said as they walked. We talked for over an hour. Jasmine looked at him in surprise. That's great. How did it go? Better than I expected. She was shocked to hear from me. We haven't spoken in almost 3 years. What did you talk about? Everything, nothing, the weather in Boston. He smiled slightly. You? Me? Why would you talk about me? Because you're the reason I called her. Something you said made me realize how much I miss her. They found an empty bench near the lake and sat down. Cameron seemed different today, more relaxed, less guarded. I'm reconsidering the Apex deal, he said suddenly. What's the Apex deal? A hostile takeover I've been planning for months. It would make me a lot of money, but at the cost of breaking up the company and laying off hundreds of people. Jasmine frowned. That sounds like the kind of business practice that cost you your relationship with your sister. It is, Cameron admitted. I've been doing the same thing for so long I stopped questioning it, but now what? Now I'm not sure it's worth it anymore. Jasmine watched a family of ducks paddle across the lake. What would the alternative be? I could partner with them instead, help them restructure, become more efficient. It would be less profitable for me, but more people would keep their jobs. He looked at her. What do you think? I think that's not a decision I can make for you. I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking what you think. Jasmine considered her words carefully. I think there's value in building things instead of tearing them down, but I also think you need to make this decision for yourself, not because you think it will impress me. Cameron nodded slowly. Fair enough. They continued walking, talking about lighter topics, favorite movies, childhood memories, places they'd like to visit. Cameron was surprisingly funny when he relaxed, telling stories about college pranks and business trips gone wrong. As the afternoon wore on, Jasmine checked her watch. I should go soon. I want to see Mum before work tomorrow. Of course, Cameron said. Can I see you next weekend, maybe Saturday? Before Jasmine could answer, her phone rang. She didn't recognize the number but answered anyway. Hello? Is this Jasmine Bell? A professional voice asked. Yes, this is she. This is Nurse Williams from Memorial Sloan Kettering. Your mother has had a complication. She's stable now, but the doctor would like you to come in as soon as possible. Jasmine's heart dropped. I'll be right there. She hung up and turned to Cameron, her face pale. I need to go to the hospital. My mum, I'll drive you, Cameron said immediately, taking her hand. Come on. The drive to the hospital was tense. Jasmine stared out the window, her thoughts racing. Cameron drove efficiently, weaving through traffic with practiced ease. She was doing so well yesterday, Jasmine said quietly. The new treatment was working. Try not to worry until you know what's happening, Cameron said, though he knew it was useless advice. At the hospital, Cameron found a parking spot and walked with her to the entrance. Do you want me to come in with you? Jasmine hesitated, then nodded. Yes, please. On the oncology floor, they found Dr. Phillips waiting by the nurses' station. He was a kind-faced man in his 50s who had been treating Margaret since her diagnosis. Jasmine, he said, gesturing for her to follow him to a quiet corner. Cameron stayed a respectful distance away. What happened? Jasmine asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Your mother had a reaction to the new medication. Her blood pressure dropped dangerously low, and she experienced some respiratory distress. But she's okay now. She's stabilized, but I'm concerned about continuing this treatment. The reaction was severe. What are our options? Dr. Phillips sighed. There's another treatment we could try. It's newer, less tested, but showing promising results in cases like your mother's. The problem is, insurance won't cover it, Jasmine finished for him. It was always the same story. I'm afraid not. It's still considered experimental. How much? The initial course would be around $80,000. Jasmine felt the floor tilt beneath her. $80,000. I know it's a lot. There are some assistance programs we could apply for, but they take time, and your mother needs to start treatment soon. How soon? Within the next 2 weeks would be ideal. Jasmine nodded numbly. Can I see her now? Of course. She's resting, but awake. As Dr. Phillips walked away, Jasmine turned to find Cameron standing closer than she'd expected. From his expression, she knew he'd heard everything. Don't, she said before he could speak. Please don't offer to pay for it. I can't accept that. Jasmine, I mean it, Cameron. I'll figure something out. I always do. He nodded slowly. Okay. Do you want me to wait while you see her? No, you should go. Thank you for the ride and for everything today. Cameron hesitated, then handed her his car key. Take my car when you're ready to leave. I'll get a car service. I can't. Please. It's just a car. You have enough to worry about. After a moment, Jasmine took the key. Thank you. She turned and walked down the hallway to her mother's room, feeling Cameron's eyes on her back. When she reached the door, she looked back, but he was gone. Margaret was awake, looking tired but alert. Her usual vibrant energy was dimmed, but her eyes brightened when she saw Jasmine. There you are, she said. I told them not to call you. It was just a little scare. Jasmine kissed her mother's forehead. A little scare that has you in the ICU, Mom. That's not nothing. Did Dr. Phillips talk to you? Yes. He told me about the new treatment. Margaret sighed. Always another mountain to climb, isn't it? We'll figure it out, Jasmine said with more confidence than she felt. We always do. They talked for a while, carefully avoiding the topic of money. Margaret asked about her date with Cameron, and Jasmine found herself sharing details of their walk in the park. He sounds different from what you described before, Margaret observed. He is different. Or maybe he's showing me a different side of himself. You like him, Margaret said. It wasn't a question. I don't know him well enough to like him, Jasmine protested. Yes, you do, her mother said with a knowing smile. I can see it in your eyes when you talk about him. Before Jasmine could respond, a nurse came in to check Margaret's vitals. You should get some rest, Mrs. Bell. And you too, Jasmine. You look exhausted. Jasmine realized she was right. The emotional roller coaster of the day had drained her. I'll come back tomorrow morning before my shift, Mom. Go home, baby, get some sleep. Margaret squeezed her hand. Everything looks brighter in the morning. In the parking lot, Jasmine sat in Cameron's BMW, too tired to drive yet. She leaned her head against the steering wheel and finally let the tears come. $80,000. It might as well be 80 million, even with every assistance program available. Even if she picked up more shifts, even if she sold everything she owned, it wouldn't be enough. Her phone buzzed with a text. She expected it to be from Cameron, but instead it was from an unknown number. Ms. Bell, this is Rebecca Holt, Cameron's sister. He gave me your number. I'm an attorney with experience in medical insurance appeals. I'd like to help with your mother's case pro bono. Please call me when you can. Jasmine stared at the message in disbelief. Cameron had called his estranged sister, a sister he hadn't spoken to in years, to ask for help. For her? Before she could process this, another text came in, this one from Cameron. I respect your independence. I won't offer money, but I hope you'll let Rebecca help. She's the best at what she does. And Jasmine, I'm here if you need me, for anything. Jasmine started the car, her mind racing. As she drove home through the dark city streets, she felt something shift inside her. The wall she'd built around her heart, the one that kept her focused solely on her mother's care and her own survival, was beginning to crack. Cameron Holt was supposed to be a one-time conversation, a bizarre birthday encounter, a story to tell someday. Not someone who could make her feel like this. Not someone who would call his estranged sister to help a woman he barely knew. When she reached her small apartment, Jasmine sat on her couch and dialed Rebecca Holt's number. As the phone rang, she wondered what Cameron had told his sister about her. Hello, Jasmine, a warm voice answered. I'm so glad you called. Cameron has told me a lot about you. I think we can help your mother. For the first time in weeks, Jasmine felt a glimmer of hope. And something else. Something that felt dangerously like falling. The next morning, Jasmine met Rebecca Holt at a small cafe near the hospital. Cameron's sister was nothing like Jasmine had expected. Where Cameron was reserved and sometimes intimidating, Rebecca was warm and immediately approachable. She wore a simple blazer over jeans, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Thank you for meeting me, Rebecca said, shaking Jasmine's hand firmly. I've already started looking into your mother's case. I still don't understand why you're doing this, Jasmine said as they sat down. You don't know me. Rebecca stirred her coffee thoughtfully. Let's just say I owe my brother a favor. You haven't spoken to him in years. True, but when he called me about you, Rebecca smiled slightly. I've never heard him talk about anyone the way he talks about you. Jasmine felt her cheeks warm. We barely know each other. Sometimes you don't need a lot of time to recognize something special, Rebecca said. Now tell me everything about your mother's treatment history and insurance situation. For the next hour, they went through Margaret's medical records and insurance denials. Rebecca took detailed notes, occasionally asking sharp, specific questions that revealed her expertise. The experimental treatment they're recommending is actually being used as standard care in several European countries, Rebecca explained. That gives us leverage. I've won appeals with less. How long will the appeal take? Jasmine asked. Dr. Phillips said Mom needs to start treatment within 2 weeks. Appeals normally take 30 days, but we can file for an expedited review based on medical necessity. That brings it down to 72 hours. Rebecca tapped her pen against her notepad. In the meantime, I know a foundation that might provide bridge funding. They help cancer patients access treatments while insurance issues are being resolved. Hope flickered in Jasmine's chest. Do you really think we can make this work? I've been doing this for 8 years, Jasmine. Trust me. Your mother will get the treatment she needs. Rebecca closed her notebook. Now, tell me how you met my brother. Jasmine hesitated, unsure how much Cameron had shared. We met at the hotel where I work. And we talked for hours. Rebecca leaned forward, her expression curious. Cameron doesn't talk for hours with anyone. He barely makes it through family dinners without checking his phone. He's different now, Jasmine said, surprised by her own defensiveness. Yes, he is, Rebecca agreed, studying Jasmine with new interest. And I think you might be the reason. Later that day, Jasmine sat beside her mother's hospital bed explaining Rebecca's plan. She seems very confident, Jasmine said. She's already filed the expedited appeal and contacted the foundation about bridge funding. Margaret looked tired, but relieved. And this woman is helping us for free, just because her brother asked her to. Apparently. You must have made quite an impression on this Cameron. Jasmine shrugged, trying to seem casual. We've only spent a few days together, Mum. Sometimes that's all it takes. Margaret reached for her daughter's hand. Your father asked me to marry him after 3 days. And look how that turned out, Jasmine said dryly. Not all men are like your father, baby. Margaret squeezed her hand. This Cameron, he sounds like he cares about you. Maybe he does, Jasmine admitted, but caring isn't enough. We're from completely different worlds. People said the same thing when I married your father. The poor girl from the projects and the college boy with the fancy family. Margaret's eyes grew distant with memory. The difference is, your father never really saw me. He saw an idea of me, and when the reality didn't match, he left. How do I know Cameron really sees me? Does he listen when you talk? Does he remember the things that matter to you? Does he respect your boundaries? Jasmine thought about their conversations, how intently Cameron focused on her words, how he'd backed off when she refused his financial help. Yes, he does all those things. Then give him a chance. Not everyone will disappoint you like your father did. Before Jasmine could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Cameron. How are you? How's your mother today? She smiled despite herself and typed back, Better. Your sister is amazing. Thank you for connecting us. His response came quickly. She's the best person I know, much better than me. I don't know about that, Jasmine replied. You're not so bad yourself. High praise indeed. Can I see you tomorrow? Jasmine hesitated, then replied, I work until 3. After that, I'll pick you up at the hotel, 3:30? Okay. When she looked up from her phone, her mother was watching her with a knowing smile. Not so bad, huh? Jasmine rolled her eyes, but couldn't hide her smile. Hush, Mom. Get some rest. The next afternoon, Cameron waited outside the hotel in his BMW. When Jasmine emerged from the employee entrance, he got out to greet her. Hi, he said simply. Hi, she replied, suddenly shy. How's your mother today? Stable. The doctors are keeping her comfortable until we know about the treatment. Cameron nodded. Rebecca called me this morning. She's optimistic about the appeal. She's been incredible. I don't know how to thank you for involving her. You don't need to thank me. He opened the passenger door for her. I thought we could go to my place. I want to show you something. Jasmine raised an eyebrow. Your place? My apartment, he clarified quickly. It's not what you think. I've been working on something and I'd like your opinion. Curious, Jasmine got into the car. They drove uptown to a sleek high-rise overlooking Central Park. The doorman greeted Cameron by name, and the elevator whisked them directly to the penthouse floor. Cameron's apartment was exactly what Jasmine had expected. Spacious, minimalist, and obviously expensive. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a spectacular view of the park and the city beyond. This is... Wow, she said, moving to the windows. It's just a place, Cameron said, watching her. It's never really felt like home. Why not? He shrugged. Too empty, I guess. I'm never here enough to make it feel lived in. Cameron led her to a home office where papers were spread across a large desk. This is what I wanted to show you. Jasmine looked at the documents and realized they were related to Apex Technologies, the company Cameron had been planning to take over. I've been working on an alternative approach, he explained. Instead of breaking up the company, I'm proposing a partnership. My firm would invest in their R&D department and help streamline their operations. They keep their independence, their employees keep their jobs, and we both benefit financially. Jasmine picked up one of the papers, skimming the details. This is a major change from what you described before. It is, Cameron agreed. It's less profitable in the short term, but more sustainable long term, and no one loses their livelihood. What made you change your approach? Cameron met her gaze directly. You did. What you said about building things instead of tearing them down. It stuck with me. Jasmine felt a strange mix of emotions, pride, surprise, and something deeper she wasn't ready to name. I didn't think you'd take my opinion so seriously. I value your perspective. You see things differently than anyone else in my life. He gestured to the papers. What do you think? Is this a better way forward? Jasmine studied the documents more carefully. Though she didn't understand all the business terminology, the intent was clear. It seems more human, Cameron smiled. That's what I was going for. Have you presented this to Apex yet? Tomorrow morning. Their CEO was surprised when I requested a meeting to discuss partnership instead of continuing the hostile takeover. I bet he was. Jasmine handed the papers back to Cameron. I think this is a good thing you're doing. It feels right, he admitted. For the first time in years, I'm making a business decision that doesn't make me feel like the villain. They moved to the living room, where Cameron offered her a drink. As they sat on the sofa with glasses of iced tea, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Cameron told her about his college years, when he dreamed of using his business skills to help struggling communities. What happened to that dream? Jasmine asked. Cameron's expression grew distant. After my parents died, everything changed. I was angry, lost. Making money became a way to prove I was in control of something. And once you start down that path, it's hard to change direction. Exactly, he looked at her, until someone comes along and reminds you there are other paths. The moment stretched between them, charged with unspoken feelings. Cameron moved slightly closer. Jasmine, Her phone rang, interrupting whatever he had been about to say. It was Rebecca. I should take this, Jasmine said apologetically. Of course, Jasmine answered the call. Rebecca, is everything okay? Better than okay, Rebecca said, her voice excited. The foundation agreed to provide bridge funding for your mother's treatment while we wait for the insurance appeal. They can transfer the funds directly to the hospital by tomorrow. Are you serious? Jasmine felt tears spring to her eyes. How is that possible so quickly? Let's just say I made a compelling case, Rebecca replied. The treatment can start as early as Thursday if Dr. Phillips approves. Rebecca, I don't know how to thank you. No thanks needed. Just go tell your mother the good news. After hanging up, Jasmine turned to Cameron, who was watching her with concern. What happened? The foundation is providing bridge funding. Mum can start the treatment this week. Jasmine's voice broke with emotion. Cameron, this wouldn't have happened without you. It was all Rebecca, he said modestly. But you called her. After years of not speaking to her, you reached out because of me. Why? Cameron moved closer, taking her hands in his. Because I couldn't stand seeing you in pain. Because I wanted to help, but I respected your wishes not to offer money because... He paused. Because I care about you, Jasmine. More than I expected to. More than makes sense after such a short time. Jasmine looked at their joined hands. I care about you too, and it scares me. Why? Because people like you don't end up with people like me. Because this feels like a fairy tale, and fairy tales aren't real. Cameron lifted her chin gently, making her meet his eyes. This is real, Jasmine, you and me sitting here right now. This is the most real thing I've felt in years. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted to, but Jasmine didn't pull away. She closed the distance between them, and their lips met in a gentle kiss that quickly deepened with unexpected intensity. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Cameron rested his forehead against hers. I've wanted to do that since the diner at 4 in the morning, Jasmine smiled. Me too. I should take you to the hospital, Cameron said. You'll want to tell your mother the news in person. Thank you, Jasmine said, still holding his hand. For everything. At the hospital, Margaret was sitting up in bed looking at a magazine when they arrived. Her eyes widened slightly when she saw Cameron enter behind Jasmine. Mom, this is Cameron Holt, Jasmine said. Cameron, this is my mother, Margaret Bell. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Bell, Cameron said, stepping forward to shake her hand. Jasmine speaks very highly of you. Margaret studied him with motherly scrutiny. So you're the man who's been occupying my daughter's thoughts. Mom, Jasmine protested, embarrassed. I hope so, Cameron replied with a smile. We have good news, Jasmine said, changing the subject. The foundation Rebecca contacted is providing funding for your treatment. You can start as early as Thursday. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. Really? It's happening that quickly? Really, Jasmine confirmed, squeezing her mother's hand. Dr. Phillips just needs to approve the schedule. Margaret looked at Cameron. Your sister did this? She made the calls, but the foundation made the decision. They recognize a fighter when they see one. Margaret smiled at him, her earlier scrutiny softening. Thank you for helping us. Not many people would go to such lengths for someone they just met. Jasmine is... Cameron glanced at her, his expression warm. She's special. Yes, she is, Margaret agreed. Always has been. They stayed for an hour, talking about the treatment plan and what to expect. Cameron remained respectfully engaged, but gave Jasmine and her mother space for their more personal conversations. Before they left, Margaret asked for a moment alone with Cameron. I'll go find Dr. Phillips, Jasmine said, giving them privacy. When she was gone, Margaret fixed Cameron with a direct gaze, My daughter has had to be strong for a very long time. Her father left when she was 12, and she's been taking care of me since my diagnosis 2 years ago. She's remarkable, Cameron said sincerely. She is, and she deserves someone who sees that. Someone who will be there when things get hard, not just when it's convenient. Margaret's eyes were kind but serious. Are you that person, Mr. Holt? Cameron considered his answer carefully. I'm trying to be, Mrs. Bell. I can't promise I'll never make mistakes, but I can promise I'll always try to be worthy of her. Margaret nodded, apparently satisfied. That's a good answer. Now go find my daughter. She's probably worrying about what I'm saying to you. In the following days, Cameron surprised Jasmine by rearranging his schedule to be present for Margaret's first treatment. He sat with Jasmine in the waiting room, brought them both coffee and kept the conversation flowing to distract her from worrying. You don't have to stay, Jasmine told him. I know you have the Apex meeting today. I rescheduled, Cameron said simply. This is more important. When Margaret emerged from treatment tired but stable, Cameron drove them both home and insisted on carrying the groceries up to their small apartment. You don't have to do all this, Jasmine said as they stood in her tiny kitchen. I want to, Cameron replied. Let me help, Jasmine, not because I think you can't handle it, but because you shouldn't have to handle it alone. Slowly, a routine developed. Cameron would visit Margaret with Jasmine several times a week. He rearranged his work schedule to be available for treatment days. When Jasmine had to work, he sometimes sat with Margaret, reading to her or simply keeping her company. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at the hospital, Cameron took Jasmine to dinner at a quiet restaurant. The Apex deal is finalized, he told her. The partnership approach worked even better than I expected. Their stock is up, and we're already seeing returns on our investment. That's wonderful, Cameron. I've been thinking about other companies we could help this way. Businesses with good products but cash flow problems. With the right investment and guidance, they could thrive instead of being dismantled. Jasmine smiled at his enthusiasm. You sound excited about this. I am. It feels like going back to my original vision, using business to build things, not tear them down. He reached across the table for her hand. I have you to thank for that. You would have figured it out eventually. Maybe. But it might have taken years more of being someone I didn't like very much. He squeezed her hand. You changed everything, Jasmine. You're giving me too much credit. I'm not giving you enough. Cameron's expression grew serious. These past few weeks with you have been the happiest of my life. I know it's fast, but I've never been more certain of anything. Jasmine felt her heart race. Cameron, I love you, he said simply. I love your strength, your honesty, your heart. I love who I am when I'm with you. Jasmine sat in stunned silence. 3 words she hadn't expected to hear, not this soon. 3 words that scared her and thrilled her in equal measure. You don't have to say it back, Cameron added quickly. I just wanted you to know. Jasmine looked at their joined hands, then back at his face. I care about you so much, Cameron, but love, that's a big word. I know, he said, his expression open and vulnerable, and I'll wait until you're ready to use it, however long that takes. 2 weeks later, Rebecca called with news. The insurance company had approved the appeal. Margaret's treatment would be fully covered going forward, and the foundation's bridge funding could be directed to other patients in need. It's official, Rebecca told Jasmine over the phone. The approval came through this morning. I've already notified the hospital billing department. Rebecca, I don't know what to say, Jasmine said, her voice thick with emotion. You've changed our lives. I'm just glad I could help, Rebecca replied. How's my brother treating you? Jasmine smiled, glancing at the bouquet of flowers Cameron had sent to the hospital that morning. He's wonderful. Good, Rebecca said firmly. Because if he ever isn't, you tell me and I'll set him straight. After hanging up, Jasmine sat beside her mother's bed, sharing the good news. Margaret was responding well to the treatment, her strength gradually returning. One less thing to worry about, Margaret said with relief. Now we can focus on getting me well. The doctors are optimistic, Jasmine reminded her. Your numbers are improving every week. Margaret patted the bed beside her. Sit, baby. There's something I want to talk to you about. Jasmine sat, immediately concerned. What is it? Are you feeling worse? No, nothing like that. It's about you and Cameron. Margaret took her daughter's hand. I see the way he looks at you, and the way you look at him when you think no one's watching. Mum, let me finish. I know you're being careful with your heart. After what your father did, I understand that better than anyone. But sometimes, love is worth the risk. He told me he loves me, Jasmine admitted quietly. Margaret's face lit up. And what did you say? That I care about him. That love is a big word. It is. But it's also a beautiful one when it's real. Margaret squeezed her hand. Don't let fear keep you from happiness, Jasmine. I've watched you put your life on hold for 2 years taking care of me. It's time for you to live for yourself too. I can't think about that until you're better. I am getting better, and I want to see you happy. Margaret's eyes were earnest. That young man loves you. Real love, not the kind that runs when things get hard. I've seen how he is with you, with me. That's not something you walk away from because you're afraid. Jasmine felt tears prick her eyes. What if it doesn't work out? What if our differences are too much? What if it does work out? Margaret countered. What if this is your chance at the kind of love most people only dream about? That evening, Cameron came to pick Jasmine up from the hospital. As they walked to his car, she was unusually quiet. Everything okay? He asked, concerned. Is your mother feeling worse? No, she's doing well. Rebecca called today. The insurance appeal was approved. That's fantastic news, Cameron said, opening the car door for her. We should celebrate. Cameron, Jasmine said, not getting into the car yet. There's something I need to say. His expression grew serious. Okay. These past few weeks have been incredible. You've been there for me and my mother in ways I never expected anyone would be. You've shown me who you really are, behind all the success and money. Cameron waited, his eyes fixed on hers. I was so afraid of falling for you, she continued, afraid that our worlds were too different, that it couldn't possibly work out. But the truth is, she took a deep breath, the truth is, I love you too. I think I have since that night in the diner. Cameron's face broke into a radiant smile. He stepped forward, cupping her face in his hands. Say it again. Jasmine laughed softly. I love you, Cameron Holt. He kissed her then, right there in the hospital parking lot. A kiss full of promise and future and hope. When they broke apart, Cameron rested his forehead against hers. I have something to show you. What is it? You'll see. They drove through the city, eventually stopping in front of a storefront in Harlem. The windows were papered over, but a for-lease sign hung in the door. What are we doing here? Jasmine asked. Cameron led her to the door and produced a key. I wanted to get your opinion on something. He unlocked the door and ushered her inside. The space was empty, dusty, with bare floors and walls waiting to be transformed. This is... Jasmine looked around, recognition dawning. This is the corner location I told you about, the one I wanted for my bookstore. It is, Cameron confirmed. The lease became available last week. You leased it? Jasmine asked, her voice rising. Cameron, I told you I didn't want charity. It's not charity, he said quickly. It's an investment opportunity. The location has excellent foot traffic, the neighborhood is growing, and I happen to know an incredibly talented businesswoman with a solid plan for a bookstore cafe. Jasmine stared at him. Are you serious? Completely serious. I've set up a business partnership agreement. You maintain controlling interest and full creative control. I provide the initial capital as a silent partner. All profits go back into the business until my investment is recouped. Then we split based on ownership percentage. A real business deal? Jasmine clarified. Not a gift. A real business deal, Cameron confirmed. One I expect to be profitable, given your business plan and the location. Jasmine walked around the empty space, imagining bookshelves along the walls, reading nooks in the corners, a coffee counter by the window. Her dream, suddenly within reach. The paperwork is with Rebecca, Cameron added. She insisted on reviewing everything to make sure it's fair to you. She says, and I quote, "Don't let my brother's feelings for you cloud your business judgment." Jasmine laughed. I like your sister more every day. So? Cameron asked, watching her anxiously. What do you think? Jasmine turned to him, her eyes shining. I think I need to see the paperwork and talk to Rebecca. Cameron's face fell slightly. And, she continued, moving closer to him, I think I love you even more for understanding that this has to be real, not a gift, for seeing me as a partner, not a charity case. His smile returned as she wrapped her arms around his neck. So that's a maybe. That's a show me the details, but I'm incredibly excited and touched by what you've done. Cameron kissed her softly. I want to build something with you, Jasmine. Not just this store, but a life. As they stood in the empty space that held so much promise, Jasmine felt the last of her doubts fade away. Their beginning may have been unusual, a paid hour of conversation on a lonely birthday night, but what had grown from that strange arrangement was real. 1 hour turned to forever, she murmured against his lips. What was that? Cameron asked. Jasmine smiled, just thinking about how sometimes the most unexpected beginnings lead to the most beautiful stories. Outside the store window, the city continued its busy pace, but inside, in the dusty quiet of possibility, two people from different worlds held each other, planning a future neither had imagined just weeks before. Then Cameron's phone rang, interrupting the moment. He checked the screen and frowned. "I need to take this, it's the board chairman." As Cameron stepped away to take the call, Jasmine watched his expression change from contentment to concern. Something was wrong. When he hung up, his face was grim. "What is it?" Jasmine asked. "There's a problem with the Apex deal. Someone's trying to undermine it." Cameron ran a hand through his hair. "I need to get to the office right away." "Go," Jasmine said. "We can talk about the store later." Cameron kissed her quickly. "I'll call you as soon as I know what's happening." As he hurried out the door, Jasmine stood alone in what might become her bookstore. The moment of perfect happiness had been brief, but she tried not to see it as an omen. Still, as she locked up the empty store, she couldn't shake the feeling that their story wasn't going to be as simple as she'd hoped. The worlds they came from were still very different, and those differences wouldn't disappear just because they'd fallen in love. For now, though, she held on to the promise of what could be, a bookstore of her own, her mother getting better, and a man who loved her enough to help make her dreams come true without taking them over. It was more than she'd ever expected, and worth fighting for no matter what challenges lay ahead. Jasmine didn't hear from Cameron until late that night. When her phone finally rang, she answered immediately. "Cameron, what's happening?" "It's worse than I thought," he said, his voice strained with fatigue. "Michael Davis from Davis Technologies is making a counter-offer to Apex. He's promising their board bigger profits if they break our agreement and go with him instead." "Can he do that? Isn't there a contract?" "We had a preliminary agreement, but the final papers weren't signed yet." Cameron sighed heavily. "Davis is offering them more money up front, but his plan involves cutting half their workforce." "Those poor people," Jasmine said. "What are you going to do?" "Fight back. I've been on the phone with Apex's CEO for hours. I managed to convince him to give me 24 hours to come up with a counter-proposal." There was a pause. "I'm sorry about the bookstore. We'll talk about it soon, I promise." "The bookstore can wait. This is more important. Thank you for understanding." His voice softened. "I love you, Jasmine." "I love you too," she replied, still getting used to saying the words out loud. "Call me tomorrow when you can." After hanging up, Jasmine sat on her couch, thinking about how quickly her life had changed. 6 weeks ago, she'd been a waitress with a sick mother and deferred dreams. Now her mother was getting better, her bookstore dream was within reach, and she was in love with a man she'd never expected to meet. It felt fragile, this new happiness, like it could slip away at any moment. Jasmine didn't hear from Cameron the next day until evening. When he finally called, he sounded exhausted but triumphant. "It worked," he said. "Apex is staying with our deal." "That's wonderful. What did you do?" "I increased our investment by 15% and guaranteed employment for all current staff for at least 2 years. The board voted to reject Davis's offer." "Cameron, that's amazing. Those people get to keep their jobs. And Apex gets to stay intact." He paused. "There's something else. Michael Davis wants to meet with me tomorrow. Says he has a proposition for me." "What kind of proposition?" "I don't know, but I'm going to hear him out. He's been my biggest competitor for years. Maybe it's time we talked." The next day, Cameron met Michael Davis at a private club in Manhattan. He texted Jasmine before the meeting, "Wish me luck." 3 hours later, Jasmine was helping her mother with physical therapy exercises when her phone buzzed with a text from Cameron. "Need to see you. Coming to the hospital. Big news." When Cameron arrived, Jasmine could tell immediately that something significant had happened. His face was animated in a way she'd never seen before. "Hello, Margaret." He greeted Jasmine's mother warmly. "You're looking stronger every day." "Feeling stronger too," Margaret replied with a smile. "Now tell us, what has you so excited before you burst?" Cameron sat on the edge of the hospital bed. "Davis didn't want to fight me on the Apex deal. He wanted to propose a partnership." "A partnership?" Jasmine asked. "With your biggest competitor?" "Yes. He's been watching how I handled the Apex situation. Said it made him reconsider his approach to business." Cameron shook his head in disbelief. "He's proposing we create a new venture capital fund together, focused on rescuing struggling companies instead of dismantling them." "That sounds like a complete change from what you've both been doing," Jasmine observed. "It is. But that's not all." Cameron took a deep breath. "He wants me to lead it. Says he's ready to step back from the day-to-day operations and focus on the big picture." "Cameron, that's incredible," Jasmine said. "It's exactly what you've been talking about. using business to build things instead of tearing them down. I know. It's like everything is falling into place. He turned to Margaret. What do you think? Am I crazy to trust him? Margaret considered the question seriously. Does your gut tell you he's sincere? Surprisingly, yes. He talked about his own regrets, about wanting to leave a different legacy. Then I think you should trust that, Margaret said. Sometimes people really do want to change. Cameron nodded, then looked at Jasmine. There's one complication. The new company would be based in Chicago. Davis already has office space and some staff there. Jasmine felt her heart sink. Chicago? It would mean moving, Cameron acknowledged. At least part-time at first. The room fell silent as the implications set in. Jasmine couldn't leave New York, not with her mother still in treatment, not with the bookstore plans just beginning. I haven't given him an answer yet, Cameron added quickly. I wanted to talk to you first. You should take it, Jasmine said, despite the pain in her chest. It's an amazing opportunity. Not without you, Cameron said firmly. Cameron, I can't leave Mum right now and the bookstore. I know, he said, taking her hand. That's why I need time to figure this out. There has to be a solution that doesn't involve us being apart. Margaret watched them with concerned eyes. Don't make any hasty decisions, talk it through properly. Later, as Cameron walked Jasmine to her car, the weight of the situation hung between them. How long would you need to be in Chicago? Jasmine asked. At least 6 months to get everything established. Maybe longer. Cameron stopped walking and turned to face her. But I'm not giving up on us, Jasmine. We'll find a way to make this work. I want to believe that, Jasmine said softly. But long-distance relationships are hard even for established couples. We've only known each other for 6 weeks. 6 weeks, that changed everything for me. Cameron took her hands in his. I'm not going to let distance come between us. You say that now, but no, Cameron interrupted gently. No buts. We'll figure this out, I promise. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Cameron flew to Chicago to see the office space and meet with Michael Davis's team. Jasmine met with Rebecca to review the bookstore partnership agreement, which was exactly as Cameron had described, fair, professional, and clearly designed to be a legitimate business arrangement rather than a gift. My brother really wants this to work, Rebecca commented as they went through the paperwork. Both the store and your relationship. I know, Jasmine said, but Chicago is far away. It is, Rebecca agreed, but Cameron isn't Dad. What do you mean? Our father traveled constantly for work. He missed birthdays, school events, even holidays sometimes. It put a strain on our family. Rebecca's expression grew distant with memory. When Mom got sick the first time, Dad was in Tokyo. He didn't make it back until she was already recovering. I didn't know your mother was ill before the accident. Breast cancer. When I was 12 and Cameron was 14, she beat it, but those months of treatment with Dad away. Rebecca shook her head. Cameron won't do that to you. He saw what it did to our family. Jasmine considered this new information. He's never told me about your mother's cancer. It's not something we talk about much, but it shaped him, shaped both of us. Rebecca smiled sadly. Why do you think I became a lawyer specializing in medical insurance appeals? As the days passed, Cameron called every night from Chicago. They talked for hours about his meetings, about Margaret's improving health, about the bookstore plans. Each conversation ended the same way. I miss you, he would say. I miss you too, she would reply. We'll figure this out, he promised. I love you. I love you too. After a week, Cameron returned to New York. He came straight from the airport to Jasmine's apartment, looking tired but determined. I have an idea, he said as soon as she opened the door. But I need you to keep an open mind. Okay, Jasmine said cautiously, leading him to the small living room. The Chicago office is going to happen. Davis has the infrastructure already in place, and it makes financial sense. Cameron sat beside her on the couch. But what if we set up a second office here in New York? Is that practical? Financially, yes. It would mean splitting my time between the two cities, at least for the first year. I'd be in Chicago 3 days a week, New York 4 days. That's a lot of travel, Jasmine pointed out. It is, but it means we could be together, and once the Chicago office is established, I could shift more operations to New York. Cameron took her hand. It's not perfect, but it's a compromise I can live with if it means not losing you. Jasmine felt tears prick her eyes. You do that. Commute between cities every week. Without hesitation, Cameron said firmly. I've already talked to Davis about it. He's on board as long as I'm physically in Chicago 3 days a week for the first 6 months. What about after that? After that? We negotiate. Maybe 2 days in Chicago. Maybe video conferences instead of in-person meetings some weeks. Cameron squeezed her hand. The point is, I'm not asking you to leave your mother or give up on the bookstore. I'm finding a way to make this work for both of us. Jasmine leaned forward and kissed him gently. Thank you for not asking me to choose. I would never do that, Cameron promised. Now, speaking of the bookstore, have you reviewed the paperwork with Rebecca? Yes, she says it's surprisingly fair for something you came up with, Jasmine said with a smile. High praise from my sister, Cameron laughed. So partners? Partners, Jasmine agreed. But I want to make one change to the arrangement. What's that? I want to name the store Bell and Holt Books, a true partnership. Cameron's expression softened. I'd be honored. The next 3 months passed in a blur of activity. Margaret completed her treatment and was declared officially in remission, though she would need regular checkups for years to come. The doctors were optimistic about her long-term prognosis. It's a miracle, Margaret said, tears in her eyes as she read the latest test results. A year ago, I thought I might not see another Christmas. It's not a miracle, Mom, Jasmine said, hugging her. It's you being the strongest person I know. The bookstore renovation began in earnest. Jasmine worked with contractors to transform the empty space into the warm, inviting bookstore she'd always imagined. Cameron provided input when asked, but gave her full creative control. Meanwhile, the Chicago-New York commute became Cameron's new normal. He was exhausted by the end of each week, but never complained. When he was in New York, he split his time between the new venture's temporary office, the bookstore renovations, and Jasmine's apartment, where he increasingly spent the night. Rebecca became a regular presence in their lives, stopping by the bookstore to check on progress and joining them for dinner at least once a week. She and Jasmine developed a friendship independent of Cameron, often meeting for coffee to discuss books or legal cases. You're good for him, Rebecca told Jasmine one afternoon as they watched workers install bookshelves. I haven't seen him this happy since before our parents died. He's good for me too, Jasmine admitted. He pushes me to dream bigger, but never makes me feel like my dreams aren't enough. 2 weeks before the bookstore's grand opening, Cameron arrived at Jasmine's apartment with a serious expression. We need to talk, he said, sitting beside her on the couch. Jasmine felt a flutter of anxiety. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, Cameron assured her quickly, but I've been thinking about our situation. The commuting? Is it too much? It's not ideal, Cameron admitted, but that's not what I want to talk about. He took a deep breath. I've been practically living here when I'm in New York. My apartment feels less like home than your couch does. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe it's time we considered living together. Cameron looked at her hopefully. Officially? Jasmine blinked in surprise. You want to move in here? This place is tiny compared to your penthouse. I was thinking we could find a new place together. Something that's ours, not mine or yours. He took her hands. What do you think? I think... Jasmine paused, considering. I think my lease is up in 2 months anyway. Cameron's face broke into a smile. Is that a yes? It's a yes, Jasmine confirmed, laughing as he pulled her into a tight embrace. There's one more thing, Cameron said, his expression growing serious again. The commuting is working for now, but long term, it's not sustainable. I know, Jasmine sighed. Have you talked to Davis about reducing your time in Chicago? I have. He's agreeable to cutting back to 2 days a week after the 6-month mark, which is coming up soon. Cameron hesitated. But I've also been thinking about another solution. What's that? What if we opened a Chicago branch of Bell and Holt Books? Jasmine stared at him. A second store? Before the first one is even open? Not right away, Cameron clarified. Maybe a year from now, when the New York store is established, you could oversee both locations, spending most of your time here but occasionally visiting Chicago with me. That's actually not a bad idea, Jasmine said slowly. If the New York store does well, expansion would be the next logical step. Exactly, and it would give us both reasons to be in both cities. Jasmine leaned against him, considering the possibility. A bookstore chain. That wasn't in my original business plan. The best plans evolve, Cameron said, kissing the top of her head. Just like the best people. The night before Bell and Holt Books' grand opening, Jasmine stood in the center of the completed store, taking it all in. The bookshelves were filled with carefully selected titles. Reading nooks with comfortable chairs dotted the space. The coffee counter gleamed, ready for its first customers. It was exactly as she had imagined it, but better. What do you think? Cameron asked, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. It's perfect, Jasmine said, leaning back against him. "I can't believe it's really happening." "Believe it," he said. "Tomorrow, you officially become a bookstore owner." "Co-owner," she corrected, turning in his arms to face him. "I couldn't have done this without you." "You absolutely could have," Cameron insisted. "It just would have taken longer." Margaret walked over from where she'd been arranging a display of local authors. Her strength had returned, though she still tired more easily than before her illness. "It's wonderful, baby," she said, hugging her daughter. "Your father should see you now." "He lost that right a long time ago," Jasmine said quietly. "I know, but I'm proud enough for both of us." Margaret looked around the store. "This place is going to change lives. Books always do." As they finished the final preparations for the opening, Rebecca arrived with a bottle of champagne. "Time to celebrate. The sign is up and it looks amazing." They stepped outside to see the illuminated sign above the store, Bell and Holt Books, in warm gold letters against a deep blue background. "It's really real," Jasmine whispered, tears forming in her eyes. Cameron slipped his arm around her waist. "Yes, it is." They toasted with champagne in paper cups, laughing and making predictions about the store's first day. When Rebecca and Margaret left to pick up dinner, Cameron asked Jasmine to stay behind for a moment. "There's something I want to show you," he said, leading her to the reading nook in the back corner, her favorite spot in the store. On the small table was a wrapped package. "What's this?" Jasmine asked. "Open it and see." Inside was a leather-bound book. When Jasmine opened it, she realized it was a journal. The first page had a handwritten inscription. "To Jasmine, the first hour we spent together changed my life. I'm looking forward to all the hours still to come. Love always, Cameron." "I thought you might want to keep a record of the store's journey," Cameron explained. "The ups and downs, the special moments, the people you meet." "It's perfect," Jasmine said, running her fingers over the smooth leather. "Thank you." Cameron took a deep breath. "There's something else." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Jasmine's breath caught in her throat as he dropped to one knee in front of her. "Jasmine Bell," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "6 months ago I was alone on my birthday with no one to call, no one who really knew me. Then you walked into my life and changed everything. You made me remember who I wanted to be. You helped me reconnect with my sister. You showed me that real success isn't measured in dollars, but in how many lives you touch." He opened the box to reveal a sapphire ring surrounded by small diamonds. "I know it hasn't been very long, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life. I love you, Jasmine. Will you marry me?" Jasmine looked at the man kneeling before her, the man who had gone from stranger to customer to friend to love in such a short time, the man who had rearranged his life to make room for hers, the man who saw her dreams as valuable as his own. "Yes," she said, tears spilling onto her cheeks. "Yes, I'll marry you, Cameron." He slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood and pulled her into his arms, kissing her deeply. When they finally broke apart, both breathless and laughing, Jasmine rested her head against his chest. "1 hour turned to forever," she murmured. "What was that?" Cameron asked, just as he had the first time she'd said those words. This time, Jasmine looked up at him with a smile. 1 hour turned to forever. That's what happened to us. "I like that," Cameron said, stroking her cheek. "It's perfect." The sound of the front door opening announced Margaret and Rebecca's return. They entered carrying takeout bags, but stopped short when they saw Jasmine's tear-streaked face and the ring glittering on her finger. "Oh my goodness," Margaret gasped, putting a hand to her heart. Rebecca's face broke into a wide smile. "Finally, I was wondering when he'd work up the courage." "You knew?" Jasmine asked. "Who do you think helped him pick out the ring?" Rebecca set down the food and hurried over to hug them both. "Welcome to the family, Jasmine." Officially, Margaret joined them, her eyes shining with happy tears. "My baby's getting married," she said, embracing Jasmine tightly. As they celebrated with dinner in the bookstore that would open the next day, Jasmine looked around at the people she loved. Her mother, healthy and smiling, Rebecca, who had become the sister she never had, and Cameron, the man who had paid for an hour of conversation and ended up giving her a lifetime of love. "A toast," Cameron said, raising his glass. "To new beginnings. To family," Rebecca added. "To dreams coming true," Margaret said, squeezing Jasmine's hand. Jasmine looked at the ring on her finger, still hardly believing it was real. "To 1 hour," she said softly, "that turned to forever." The grand opening of Bell and Holt Books was a success beyond Jasmine's wildest dreams. The store was packed from the moment they opened the doors. Local news covered the event. highlighting the partnership between a waitress with a dream and a billionaire businessman. "But it's not about the money," Jasmine told the reporter. "It's about creating a space where books can change lives, just like they changed mine." Cameron stood proudly beside her, letting her take the spotlight. When asked about their engagement, he simply said, "I'm the lucky one here. She saw something in me worth saving when I couldn't see it myself." As the day wound down and the last customers left, Jasmine found Cameron in the poetry section, rearranging books that had been moved during the busy day. "Happy?" he asked as she approached. "Happier than I ever thought possible," she replied honestly. "Are you?" "Completely." He pulled her close. "You know, I've been thinking about that night at the hotel bar. What if you hadn't been working that shift? What if I'd chosen a different bar? What if you'd turned down my offer? Then we wouldn't be here," Jasmine said simply. "Exactly. Our entire future hinged on a series of coincidences and choices that could have gone differently." "Maybe," Jasmine said thoughtfully. "Or maybe some things are just meant to be." Cameron smiled. "I never believed in fate before I met you. And now? Now I think that some people are meant to find each other, no matter what paths they take to get there." He kissed her softly. "I would have found you somehow, Jasmine Bell. If not that night, then another night. If not in that bar, then somewhere else." "Pretty confident for someone who couldn't even make dinner plans a few months ago," she teased. "You changed that about me. You changed everything." Outside, the sun was setting over Harlem, casting a golden glow through the bookstore windows. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The commute to Chicago would continue for now. The bookstore would need constant attention in its early months, and wedding plans would soon need to be made. But tonight, in the quiet of their store after its successful first day, Jasmine and Cameron stood together, surrounded by books and possibility. Two people from different worlds who had found each other against all odds. A powerful CEO and a waitress with a dream. A man who had paid for company on his birthday, and a woman who had given him so much more than conversation in return. 1 hour that had turned to forever. Later that night, as they lay together in Jasmine's small apartment for one of the last times before moving into their new place, Cameron whispered, "Do you know what I wish?" "What?" Jasmine asked sleepily. "I wish I could go back and tell myself what would happen after that hour in the bar. That lonely man sitting there on his birthday, with no idea his life was about to change completely." Jasmine smiled in the darkness. "What would you tell him? That he was about to meet the love of his life, that everything he thought mattered wouldn't matter at all anymore, that in a few months he'd be happier than he ever imagined possible. Would he believe you?" "Probably not," Cameron admitted. "But that's what makes it so amazing. Some things you have to experience to believe." Jasmine cuddled closer to him. "Like falling in love in a matter of hours?" "Exactly like that." He kissed her forehead. "Good night, future Mrs. Holt." "Good night," she murmured, already drifting off to sleep. "Love you." "Love you too," Cameron replied, holding her close as they both fell asleep, dreaming of the future they would build together, 1 hour at a time.